Hey, real estate nerds, this is Alex Yoder with Pro Tip Tuesday, my favorite day of the week. And today I want to talk about fair housing. Specifically, I got a call about 2 weeks ago from an individual concerning a fair housing issue that he was dealing with that I wanted to share with you. I also want to talk about a fair housing complaint that we had as a management company and how that kind of played out and some advice that came from that I can give to you. So first of all, this gentleman called me about 2 weeks ago and he was like, "Hey, Alex, I was given your number. I'm in a situation. Me and my wife self-manage this home, and we declined somebody that had a pet. Come to find out after talking to him for a minute, it wasn't just a pet, it was a emotional support animal. And they declined this person because they had a pet, aka an emotional support animal. Now, I don't know if this animal is a bona fide animal. I don't think he ran it through, pet screening or anything like that. But this person basically complained and said, hey, they declined me because I have an ESA, which of course is not allowed. And so this guy is in a position where he's telling the folks involved with fair housing, look, I honestly didn't know that was a rule. I didn't know that was the law. Oops, I screwed up. He's trying to approach it in an honest way. How that's going to play out is still very much TBD. And I did refer him to an attorney, of course, because that's who he needs to speak to as he works through this. But there are a lot of landlords out there who just don't know the rules and who are doing the best they can. And there's a lot of liability for that. If you're going to be renting out your property, you need to understand fair housing. You need to take a class. You need to talk to somebody like an attorney who can give you advice. You need to do something to educate yourself. And if you're declining people over things that you're not sure about, you should be checking with somebody who's an expert to see what you should be doing. And I know this is very self-serving of me to say, but honestly, you should probably just hire a property manager because this industry is so heavily regulated. Even for me, when I do it all day, every day, trying to keep up with what the heck the new law is this week can be very challenging. I mean, right now in the legislative world, we have like 6 or 7 bills, and we're only in the first month of the session. And so we'll see how that kind of plays out. But my point is, it's very hard to keep track of. I'm not knocking this guy. It's difficult to keep track of. And if you're going to be getting into it, know what you're doing and take classes as needed. Be connected enough to know what you can and can't do as it pertains, particularly to tenant screening, because that's one of the biggest points of liability that we have. And so, yeah, he's going to be speaking with an attorney. He's going to be working through it. We'll see how it turns out. But I thought I'd just say, as I open this up, to make sure you talk with somebody, ideally an attorney, as you're setting up your criteria. And that's kind of my next point is we had this fair housing complaint about 2 years ago, and we had somebody who applied for one of our properties who had about 100 points below our disclosed credit minimum. So they were about 100 points below our minimum credit score requirement, and that's why they were declined. They felt like we declined, or she felt like we declined her because she was a single woman, not because of her credit. And the reason that fair housing complaint went away quickly for us was that we very much had all of our ducks in a row. We were able to say, hey, we have a flow chart that's on our website, that's on every listing we post, that says, here's how you get approved with Dorman. It's either a pass or fail, credit, income, whatever else. These are the things that we require as a management company for you to pass or fail. And that's provided to the individual several times before they actually pay money and apply for the home. So that's a huge thing. That's number one of number two. So number one is make sure your criteria is clear and disclosed. We've been doing that for many, many years, even before the bill that passed a couple years ago for applications that now requires that in the state of Colorado. You are required to provide your criteria. Why waste their time and money? Why waste your time and money? Just tell them what you do and then do it. And we as a company, we just look at the numbers. We're not looking at anything else. Do they have the required income? Like I said, do they have the required credit? And then several other points. Number two, as you're communicating and interacting with people that are applying for your properties, keep it in writing. Keep it in writing. Now, we record all of our phone calls, so theoretically we could, have some phone calls and still have that record. But even then, in writing, things are a lot more clear, in my opinion. There's not as much opportunity for misinterpretation. And so keep it in text, keep it in email, whatever you need to do. When we had this audit, we sent them that flow chart, but then we also sent them the history of the communication that we've had in writing with this individual. And that auditor basically was like, wow, this is very obvious, very clear, you're good to go, which is pretty unheard of. Usually with these auditors in these cases, companies or individuals spend hours and hours and tons of money just to provide them so much data to make sure that there's no bigger issue with your company or you individually if you're running applications. But they were just like, yeah, this is so blatantly obvious, it's clearly frivolous, we're going to drop it. Pretty unheard of. So just make sure your ducks in a row, make sure you know what you're doing, and if you don't, just hire someone like me that does it every day. We'd be happy to help you. And I definitely feel for individuals who are doing it individually, because it is a monster, it is a beast to keep track of what the heck is the law today. So yeah, that's all I had for today. We'll see you next week.